Reince Priebus is the former chief of staff to President Trump and former RNC chairman. Reince, I mean, come on. Do Democrats really believe they're going to lose the House and maybe the Senate because they didn't go left enough fast enough?
I don't think so, Trey. I mean, look, the way I read it, the reason they're having all these problems is that, in fact, they've actually accomplished a lot of what their agenda is. I mean, their agenda is the problem. And if you just look at it, it's their intentional conduct on so many of these issues. You look at the border. What did they do? Well, they intentionally, on day one, signed an executive order to stop building the wall, to stop deporting people who commit a felony. They stopped. They reversed the Trump policy that kept people in Mexico that were crossing the border. They even told mayors, Trey, that if you have illegal immigrants in your municipality, that we're requiring you to count those illegal immigrants in the census. This is the intentional conduct. On gas prices, they ended thousands of oil leases. They increased taxes on companies. They killed the Keystone Pipeline. If you and I were on the board of Exxon or Chevron or Apache Oil, do you think that we would think it's a good idea to increase production and start drilling in more places? On inflation, last point, Stephen Ratner, who is Obama's economic guru, said the extraordinary policy mistake that the Democrats made was too much stimulus in the economy. And what does Elizabeth Warren want? She wants more taxes, more revenue, more money in the system. It's the opposite problem. She would create a bigger mess for the Democrats, Trey, if she was in charge. It's the opposite of what their problem is.
All right, Reince, it's a small sample size, but we do have Virginia. We have the gubernatorial race in Virginia. So give us your sense on why Democrats lost a state that Biden carried by double digits just a year before.
Well, a couple things. Number one, they told parents that they were idiots. They told them to sit down and shut up, that they didn't know anything about masks. They didn't know anything about vaccines, that they ought to stop having a problem with teaching 3rd and 4th and 5th graders about not just the transgender issue, but, like 20 different iterations of the transgender movement to a bunch of people, a bunch of kids that haven't even been through sex education. They lost the whole culture war in Virginia, but then they lost the economy. And lastly, Trey, they've got a person at the top of the ticket that's at 20% within their own Democrat Party. So in a 50-50 state, when your leader, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, are only at 20% polling, there is no enthusiasm on the Democrat side to actually rise up and combat the tidal wave that's coming at them, and that's happening all over the country.
Speaking of combative, let's hear from the raging Cajun himself, James Carville, and I'll get you to react on the other side.
The problem that Democrats have, right, is no one fears us. They have learned over a period of time it doesn't matter. They're weak, and all they're going to do is talk bad about each other.
Yeah.
Literally, you can't govern without fear.
All right. So, Reince, you're very well read. The Prince may be the last book I did read. He's arguing you can't govern without fear. I think Machiavelli said that, but that was like in 1532 that he said it, and Carville would have been just a kid then. I don't hear many people saying we need more fear. That's how we can win. Is that what the guy is saying?
Well, I don't know exactly what he's saying, but I think if I interpret it is that they've got the Democrats have no big play. They've got no big play. They've got no Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams. They've got no big threat. There's nothing on the table that they can point to that they've achieved anything. I like the saying from Bill Parcells that says, you are what your record says you are. And if you look across the board, 65% of the American people say we're on the wrong track. Most Democrats are not enthusiastic about their leadership. 58% of the American people can't point to a single accomplishment of Joe Biden. So yeah, you are what your record says you are. If you don't have anything that you can go to, you've got no big play, then no one's afraid of you. And I guess in that sense, he's making a good point. But that is essentially the problem that the Democrats have right now. And on top of it, they've got no leader. They've got no big, they have no one to galvanize their party whatsoever.
All right, Reince, I got to let you go tonight, but I need you back on before the midterms so I can ask you my favorite question, which is how can Republicans snatch defeat from the jaws of victory? But I'm going to save that for the next time you and I are together. And don't bring any more Green Bay Packer analogies either, because you know that drives me nuts. But have a good evening. I'll see you next time.
You got it, pal.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.